Welcome to the Travel Ones podcast. Today is my 100th episode, and I am lucky to have a special guest, my wonderful, wonderful wife, Wendy Hill. How are you today, Wendy?
I'm pretty good, Pete. Thanks for asking.
Long time no see.
Yeah, really.
Well, I'm pretty fortunate to have a wonderful wife that's willing to be a guest on my show, especially for the 100th episode. And the reason I wanted to talk to you about, or on the show, was your background as a cocktail waitress. So,
okay, yeah.
You know, as my listeners can imagine, you spent parts of 3 decades, right?
Mm-hmm. We opened our doors January 3rd, 1997, and I left in 2014.
A long time.
So it was, yeah. I spent part of my 20s, all of my 30s, and a couple years of my 40s there. Same casino.
So I'm trying to imagine exactly what you could have seen and done and experienced with 20 plus years in Las Vegas on the Strip at a major casino. I mean, what was kind of the life like?
Well, I didn't know I was going to go into this industry. I was going to UNLV to become a school teacher, and I was an education major. And this was supposed to be a temporary job. What ended up happening is when I started, the very first thing I thought was people curse more. There seems to be less manners. In other words, like every other job I worked had a little more professionalism in it. And I was working with people that shaped me now. Maybe I'm not so appropriate around people now because of it. But I did see a lot of things, and I grew up really fast. I was 25, pretty naive, still living with my mom and dad for the first 3 months that I was there. And I remember we opened our doors in January, and it was probably mid-March, and I had wads of cash and chips that I hadn't cashed out on my dresser. And I was mad at my parents for waking me up early in the morning because I worked the 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. shift, and I wasn't getting home from work until closer to 5:30 in the morning. And then my dad would be up at 7, mowing the lawn, and my mom doing laundry. And they said, "Get out." So I took that cash and I bought all my furniture for my apartment, my bed, and kitchen table, everything. And I moved out with a gay guy friend of mine, and we were 2 girls just living it up for a year. And after that, I moved by myself.
Did you expect to make that kind of money? And how did you? I always, because like for me, I did kind of the same thing. I remember going to work, and all of a sudden I was making more money than the teachers. And I'm like, why am I going to school trying to learn how to make less money? That's
what happened. I was going to UNLV. I think I was on my 7th year. I hadn't graduated yet. Like I said, I remember I was an education major, and at that time in 1996, the starting pay was $24,500 a year. And that first year in 97, I made 6 figures. Yeah. So I remember saying to my parents, they said, "Are you going to finish up that degree and then, become a teacher?" And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? I'm making cash money, hand over fist." Back then I couldn't tell myself what I know now was you can't do that job forever. The money wasn't always that good. It was good in the 90s. And then, over the course of time between 9/11 and then the housing, not crisis, but, when the real estate market just bottomed out, money went down. And then in the last few years, it really started to go down because they're just, spreading everything so thin, charging a lot for those drinks, and the money just isn't there anymore. And the job is harder because you're carrying out those heavy trays. So it's not as fun.
No kidding. You mentioned you started, 97?
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of right at the end of when the mob was getting out of Vegas, pretty much.
Yep.
About that time?
I never paid it much attention until I started working in the casinos. I had worked in a couple of casinos prior to me becoming a waitress, but I didn't do anything with the casino floor. I worked, like behind the scenes. But I noticed a transition from these greasy pompadour, shark skin wearing, pinky ring having older guys that were running the show. And then over the course of my time, fewer and fewer of those guys were left. And it was more college kids coming in and people that had no gaming, no casino experience, but they were a part of the boys club. And all these guys knew each other, and they would just give them, these really high positions and let them take a stab at running a casino like they would run some other business. And you could tell who had never dealt a card or poured a drink. When I was coming up, most of the bosses I had started out, like I did. And toward the end, we were hiring college kids that never even really had set foot in a casino until they were of legal age. And it's funny because toward the end, my bosses were like 22, 23 years old. And I'm like, you weren't even allowed in the casino when I started this job. You were like 10.
Yeah. That's just gotta be a weird transition. So let me ask you this. When you watch the movies about Vegas in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and even to the 90s, like you were mentioning the shark skin suits and all that, was that real?
Mm-hmm. So. Okay. So as you know, my grandparents lived in Las Vegas in the 60s and 70s, and I was born in 71, and I used to go out to Vegas with my parents up until I was 10. By then, both of my grandparents had died. But I remember being in the casino, like they would take me to Circus because that was really the only place a kid could go. But unlike today, you had to rush kids through those casinos. You could stop for a moment. Today, security doesn't really watch that. But back then compared to now. I'm sorry, what was the question?
About the mob.
Oh, the mob. Yeah, well, yeah, they were definitely, their presence, you could feel it. Things were run differently. As I started aging out of the business, I noticed that it was less mob, more corporate, but the corporate people were bigger scumbags than the mob ever was, because they would lie to your face and do whatever they needed to do so they could make their bottom line. And at least the mob kind of, you respected them and you knew they were consistent when they doled out any form of punishment. I myself didn't have to worry about that in my position, but I did know people in that, or I should say people whose family was in that business. And you use respect.
Well, I think that's the thing that is missing from Vegas. Because I remember
you wouldn't get away with the shit you get. Sorry, I'm swearing, but you wouldn't get away with the stuff you get away with now. Everybody has cameras. Everybody's a victim now. Everybody's too crazy now. But, and of course, this is before I started working, probably maybe 15, 20 years before I started working. But I do know that if any of the customers got out of line in any way, they would handle that business privately and you wouldn't have that problem anymore. And the word would get out in the street. The hustlers wouldn't try to pull that shit because, they knew they couldn't get away with it. I remember when I first moved to Las Vegas, 1989, it was just before my 18th birthday. For some reason, my dad wanted to check out every buffet in town. So we used to, and of course, while we're waiting, in line, my parents they'd make me wait in line for the buffet while they were playing with slot machines.
Yep.
And I remember one day I was standing, just waiting, and I saw about 6 security guards carrying a guy out that was kind of zip tied, like at the ankles, and they used his head to push that bar that opens up the door. They used his head and threw him out onto the street. And the doors closed and the guys walked away. And I stood there and even as a kid, I was like, whoa, you don't mess around in these places. I don't know what he did, but he must have deserved it.
Well, that's the whole thing, though. And I remember talking to you when we first met. It's like, I remember going there like 88 when I turned 21. And it was like comps were common. Like if you were cool and you were respectful, the pit boss would come up and go, "Hey guys, what are you doing? How long are you in Vegas for? Hey, here's our room if you want to stay here." And sometimes we'd use it, sometimes we didn't, but it wasn't. And then, hey, you guys need to eat something? Why don't you take a break and go over to the buffet? Right.
Yeah, the comps started disappearing. Remember, I left in 2014. I can imagine they probably all but dried up at this point because they're not giving anything back to the players anymore. Yeah. It's all about the bottom line and greed. But yes, back in the day, they used to give you, pack of cigarettes or comp to, get something to eat.
Yeah.
Or if you were really doing well, they'd be like, hey, you're tired. We'll hang on to your, your marker, your money, and you can go get some rest in a room and come back and play later.
Yep.
I've seen them hold slot machines before for people that were just, feeding it. But yeah, they used to do it, and now there's no value to Las Vegas. They're catching you from all those taxes when the room is advertised at $59, but by the time you get in and you pay for it, it's close to $100.
The resort fees.
No more free valet parking. Before you just tip the guy $5, and be sure to get your car back in decent condition. If you gave him more, he would keep it close.
Yeah.
Now they charge you $20. You think that person's going to tip the valet person? They're pissed off that they have to pay $20 to park.
Yep.
So, every time you shorten the pour, you take another thing that was once given for free away from the players. They're not really going to come back, and they're certainly not going to take care of the employees. And let's face it, Vegas is a tipping city, or at least in case your listeners don't know this, if you want something from somebody in Las Vegas, you have to tip them. I used to tell people, I'm like, look, let me tell you how this works. If you technically you're supposed to be gambling if you want that free drink from your waitress, but if you take care of your waitress and you're polite and not too demanding, she will be by very frequently, maybe even bring you a free drink for your friend or your girlfriend, wife, whatever. Keep you liquored up. But snapping fingers and being demanding, it doesn't work. But I feel for the customer now, because now that I've been a civilian, I've sat in that chair and I'm like, where's that bitch, man? I haven't seen her. It's like 45 minutes. I haven't seen a waitress. And now I can kind of see their frustration, but it's a two-sided coin.
Was that because, as the corporate greed comes, they make the stations bigger, or they have less people on staff?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. Of course, when I started, way back in the 90s, my casino was newer and more, it was busier. We had a lot of attractions. As time progressed, we weren't the new kid on the block anymore. Not only were we aging, but the type of clientele was getting a little bit older too, because we weren't keeping it young and fresh. And after a while, I'm sorry, one more time. I'm rambling. What was the point of, what did you want me to answer? I'm sorry.
It just looks easy on TV.
What does it look like on TV? What did you say?
It's easy on TV.
Which part?
To stay on focus.
Oh. Sorry. You're probably going to have to edit this part out.
I'll probably keep it in.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I was going off on a tangent because there's so many things I want to tell you, and I am trying to, cover them all, and I probably get off.
Oh, no, we're fine, because we were talking about, being a civilian and the changes of how there's less people or, less staff, so that waitress who used to have a small station could come around more frequently.
Right. Okay. So, yeah, sorry. Back to that. So, yeah, over the course of my career, I watched them get rid of change people. Yeah. Remember, now they've been replaced with, cash machines. If you've noticed now, the slot machines don't spit out coins anymore. Yep. So now they're spitting out tickets. So if you're a cocktail waitress, you come by, hey, here's your beer. I'm sorry, man, all my money is in the machine. I don't have anything to tip you with.
That could be literally true. Right.
And it was true. And every now and then somebody would chase you down. They'd be like, hey, I just cashed out, thanks a lot. I'm like, oh, wow, you kept your word. But I would say 75% of the people did not catch you. And if they did leave a ticket, it was like one of those odd increments, like 3 cents. So at the end of the night, if I collected enough of those, I might have $1. Yeah. So, yeah, with that, as time progressed, they started eliminating positions, forcing employees to cover more, and you're not making any more. You're just doing more work. Now the latest thing that they've done is they've gotten rid of the service bartenders, and they've replaced them with, they're called machines that are called smart bartenders. Now, I don't know a whole lot. I've only been talking to a few of my friends that are still working there, but they're saying for them personally, it is making their jobs miserable because, for one, there's no human interaction. So before, the girls, we would line up and we'd ice our glasses, and, the bartender and the barback would grab your beers, bartender would be making the drinks, and they're trying to get you in and out as fast as possible. Now you have one girl who's standing in front of the machine, and you got to remember, it's hard enough for the girls to just put ice and a fucking lime and a lemon in a glass and call their drinks in the right order for the bartender. Now you got them putting okay, Jack and Coke. Got it, Jack, all right, and Coke. All right, got to wait for that. Okay, and then she puts that on her tray, and then, whatever, and on to the next one. I mean, if you got somebody who has a slow, or they're a little spacey, oh my God, you could be standing there for 10, 15 minutes waiting for your drink. So now that guy that's out there playing that machine thinks you forgot about him. He lost all his money. He gets up, he moves. Maybe he wanders into another waitress's area, and then you come out with a drink. You don't find him. You walk around with it for a round. Now it's getting watered down. You go back, you throw it in the sink, you trash it, and then you see him 20 minutes later, and he's like, "Hey, you never brought me my drink." And it's like, fuck. Yeah.
That's bad for both.
So there's a lot of factors. Like I said, the more you spread people thin, the worse service the customers are going to get. And I just don't think corporate cares. They have to answer to their shareholders. And I did notice this. And because I don't work for the company anymore, although if you want to do the research, you might not know what casino I'm talking about, but you know the company. Jim Murin stepped down, who was our company's president. And he took a fat golden parachute just before the coronavirus hit. A lot of executives did. So I just found that odd. He got his payment, and now look what they're doing. They're doubling up on CEOs per casino. Like they're having one CEO watch over 2 casinos. Same thing, one manager is watching over multiple departments. They're just now starting to call employees back, and it's a good way to get rid of a lot of people. So I'm sorry, I'm talking about Vegas and today and not Vegas back then, but Vegas is changing, and I don't know what it's going to be like after this.
Well, that goes perfectly into my next question, which was, I remember back in the 80s and 90s going there as a young man, and you went there to gamble. I mean, you went there to gamble. You didn't go there to do anything else. But now you have a new beast called the day and nightclubs. And now people my daughter's age are going there just to go to the days and nightclub, and they don't even gamble anymore.
Well, one of the things that I had learned not too long before leaving was that food and beverage, or the alcohol sales, is what's carrying Las Vegas. It's not the gambling. It's not the shows. It's not the restaurants. It's the alcohol sales. And we need those kids to come in. Of course, they need people like us, older people that are actually gambling and putting some money in those machines and shopping and everything else that goes with it. But those day clubs and those nightclubs are like, whoo. I mean, I remember when I moved to Vegas, it was just for my 18th birthday. You still had to be 21 to get into nightclubs there, so I had to wait a few years. But we only had like 1 or 2 nightclubs for the whole city, and they were not in casinos. I mean, we had the Shark Club. Anybody from Vegas listening would know that place. And that was a freestanding building. And then in, mid-90s, it was the Drink. Utopia was like a techno club. So, I mean, and those were the only nightclubs. Now you got nightclubs, in like multiple clubs in one casino. And the nightclubs that I went to back in my day, they were, there weren't gorgeous staff working. They did have a few booths and places to sit, but you weren't sitting, it wasn't, nobody owned it. It wasn't bottle service tables, private tables. It was just some place you sat for a moment and then you were dancing. And then some genius was like, hey, I can put a bunch of people and charge more and make it more exclusive and give you this idea that you're a fucking baller. And let me tell you something about that. All you suckers out there that are listening to this that buy the bottle service and the table, you're doing it because you want to show off. It has nothing to do with, because first of all, you're isolated from everybody. So if you want to meet chicks, you know what they do? These dudes that don't have enough personality to get out there and mingle and actually meet chicks and bring them to the table will pay security to fish. And then you know how I know that? because I've been fished. And I have come to your table and drank your premium alcohol and then excused myself to go to the bathroom and took off. So let me just tell you, that doesn't work. It's just better to be on the floor, mix with people, and, don't be that guy up there. And plus, you're paying $500 for a bottle of Absolute. Come on.
But now it's so loud in those places. You can barely.
Oh, right. You can't talk. So, yeah, you're right. So you're paying all this money to listen to this world-renowned DJ, so you can be isolated with a handful of people that you may or may not know. Occasionally, some really hot chick who's your waitress will come by and top off your drinks, and she's going to add an auto, 15-18% to gratuity to your check. So don't be a dum-dum and tip her on top of that, because she's already making money. That bottle of champagne that you just bought at 1,000% markup also is going to come with an auto grat. And before you know it, you've dropped a few grand so you can have an experience. I don't know who you are and what that means to you when you take that home, but for everybody else, we're just making money off of you. It's just ridiculous. But maybe that's, how I feel now as an adult, older. Yeah. I think the clubs are out of control. However, best lights I've ever seen, like best layouts. It's a serious business. And they don't even start getting going until like 11, 12 o'clock at night, which is way past my bedtime now. But let me tell you about the girls, the waitresses that are making a fucking killing in these nightclubs. Now, at best, in my casino day, I had my hourly pay, and I had some health insurance and some benefits that were included in that, which was good. That in itself is nothing to sneeze at. But depending on the waitress, depending on her section, depending on what time of day she was working, what day she was working, what her attitude was, how good her bartender was. There's a lot of factors. But no matter what, most casino waitresses will never pull what a nightclub waitress pulls. However, nightclub waitresses are not union, so they can be fired for any little reason. And there's a constant crop of beautiful girls coming up every season. And,
that's because they're not union. So
that's right. So but the union waitresses
can just fire the ones that gain a little weight. And
even that, you just look at somebody the wrong way, and I'm sure a lot of these girls, have to fight hand, tooth, and nail to come back and get that same spot. And I have to say, I don't know what's harder, wearing high heels, lingerie, full makeup, lashes, extensions, nails, all that shit, carrying out sparklers so you can bring out, a bottle of champagne, working till 6 a.m, or the day pool girl that is under constant scrutiny for her body because God forbid she has a slice of pizza on, when she's PMSing. These girls have to look phenomenal in their bathing suits. A lot of them have fake tits, but it's not necessary. I know a lot of them that are having tattoos today. We weren't allowed to have tattoos in my day. But, these chicks are hot, and they're working out in, like, triple-digit heat. And, I give it up. I think, honestly, theirs is probably harder because of the heat. That's the one shift I never worked. I was like, no thanks. You can't jump in the pool, and you get migraines when you go in and out from air conditioning to heat. So that's got to be a tough gig. But yeah, those girls are making, you can tell the difference. They're showing up to work in Mercedes. They have a real Louis Vuitton bag. This is just my hunch, just based on what I've heard. Again, it differs from day to day, girl to girl, club to club, but at least 1,000 a night.
Yeah.
Can be, because you're if you have a good bottle service table, or you have people ordering drinks on top of the already whatever they paid for it, that's it's just one big transaction. At the end of the night, somebody's going to put on their credit card and you get to cash out with that. But these jobs dry up. The nightclubs aren't forever. Sometimes clubs are hot for 6 months to a year and then they die out, or the next biggest thing. And it's tough,
very transient. I think. Well, my opinion of the Las Vegas workers was it's a transient. Like you weren't meant to be a casino waitress for 35 years.
Well, okay, nobody should be a casino cocktail waitress for 35 years. A lot of women end up aging themselves in the business because you get comfortable. You build a life based on your pay. I would say for the nightclub waitresses, they're not going to have any longevity. For the women that become casino waitresses, and I don't know of any new casinos that have opened recently, but in my day, I mean, it seemed like almost every year a new casino would open. So if you weren't happy at one spot and you got, you drew a good bid number at a new casino, and a bid number is you hire 100 girls, they randomly, they put your names in a barrel, they draw names, and whoever has these numbers, number one obviously gets the number one choice of shifts. Yeah. So you have an opportunity to pick the dice pit, with Monday, Tuesday off. So you're working the best shifts, the best nights. So you're going to make the most money. When I did my bid, there was 100 girls hired at my casino when we opened, and I was number 60. I was like, ugh. By the time I got my shift, I mean, I got something okay, but it forever kept me chasing the dragon because my bid number wasn't great. And I had to wait for a lot of bitches get fired, quit, die before I had some shifts, which reminds me. When a waitress quits or leaves, the very first question the next girl is going to ask is, when is her shift going to be posted? We had some girls die at my job, and, the manager is announcing it. Oh, my God, that's so sad. Oh, my God, it's awful. So when are you guys going to be posting your shift? The body's not even cold yet. I know this doesn't really have a lot to do with tourism, but I can tell you how I feel like I have a little knowledge on tourists, because everybody from all over the world comes to Las Vegas. Yeah. And pretty much everybody's looking for a cocktail waitress because they want a drink. So I've met people all over the board, and it's been nice because there's places that I know I'll never visit, and people would give me their addresses and emails and say if I ever showed up or ever had any plans to come to their country to look them up.
Well, you also had your friends would come in town and see you.
That was actually a perk. Yeah. Living in Las Vegas, you pretty much can guarantee people will come to visit. People will see you. If you live in buttfuck USA, nobody wants to come visit you. But I saw people that I went to high school with, people that I grew up with, family members that I hadn't seen in years, but they had business in Las Vegas, so they popped by the casino to say hello. My dad would send people over to say hello to me, like, this is my insurance adjuster. He lives in Florida. I told him to stop by and say hello. Hi, nice to meet you. So you're my dad? Yeah. Okay. Is he gambling? Is he going to tip me? I don't know. And it was also a good way, if people express interest in talking to you, you could always say, well, you can stop by my casino, because I felt always safe. Like if I wanted, if a stranger was trying to talk to me, I'd be like, just meet me at the casino or just talk to me here, because I had friends and I was under cameras, and I always felt safe in the casino. I got to tell you, that sounds crazy. Crazy things did happen, but not a lot of crazy things happen because we have those cameras, because there's eye in the skies and everybody's watching you. But there, as you know, there's been some. I was there when the Tyson fight happened and he bit off Holyfield's ear, and everybody bum rushed the bridge and came over, and woo, that was crazy.
So here's my next question for you, and I'll preface it with this: I know you haven't met Olivia Newton-John.
Yeah, you know this, and you love to rub it in.
But who are some of the celebrities you've met working as the waitress?
There's been so many.
Other than Olivia Newton-John.
Other than Olivia Newton-John, who, by the way, if anyone knows her, I give anything to meet her. I've met everybody, and except for her, and she's the only one I really want to meet. Okay, so the most memorable one, the one that still to this day I was like, holy shit, John F. Kennedy Jr. And it was just a couple of months before he died. Huh. And he was polite, and he tipped me $5 for a drink, and I made sure to give him better vodka. And even the dealer, we were just a little, nobody, I don't think anybody really knew who he was. He was just a good looking guy. Carolyn wasn't with him because I was looking for her, because I remember, they just were such a beautiful couple, but he was just very understated and quietly playing blackjack. He was only there for about 20 minutes. I served him one drink. He tipped me my $5, and he was just lovely. And I remember the dealer and I gushing about him afterward. other celebrities, run of the mills. I mean, anybody who was relevant in the 90s, they, because our casino was new, everybody rolled through there. Some strange ones like Marilyn Manson asked me where the bathroom was, and he was in like full makeup, like he just got off stage. I'm like, dude, are you trying to get attention? I'm trying to think of else. There's so many odd ones, like, man, I'm trying to think, like actors from the 70s, the 80s, Joey Buttafuoco. This is taking it back. Amy Fisher or Joey Buttafuoco, not Amy Fisher, but Joey Buttafuoco was there. Trying to think who else. Some of the nice ones, Ben Stiller. Sweetheart, total sweetie pie. He was with his Christine, I remember his wife, but at the time they were dating. And I remember, I wasn't really sure if it was him because he looked a little disheveled, like, who knows, maybe had a long day. But I stopped him and he turned around and seemed pleasantly surprised that I recognized him. And we talked for a minute and he was very nice and made me even more of a fan. I mean, I always loved him, but I was like, he's a good guy too. Trying to think who else. Gosh, I'm brain farting. You know some.
Jeremy Piven's.
Yeah, but that wasn't at where I worked. I mean, oh yeah. Well, that was another thing in general. Oh my God. Well, celebrities, everybody comes to Vegas. The irony is I wanted to live in LA where I'm at now. And, work in entertainment. And since I've been here, in 6 years, I've seen a handful of famous people living in LA. I saw a handful of people every weekend. Yeah. It's just Vegas, everybody goes there. And I think people forget our tourism motto was what happens there stays there. But no,
not anymore.
And I don't know why people act a fool. Somebody has to be responsible for them. But anyway, long story short, what
about Duran Duran?
Duran Duran, yes. Oh my God. Of course, okay. So again, next to Olivia Newton-John, Duran Duran, and I met Simon after a concert at the Hard Rock one night after they were performing, and then 2 days later, Simon, Nick, and Roger came to see our surf show at our casino, and I was filling my tray with drinks, and the phone rings in the bar, and it's one of the bartenders that works in the showroom, and he's like, "Yeah, that band you like, Duran Duran." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "They're here right now," and I was like, "What?" Like, the show was over, but there was no crowd anymore. They had already ushered them out, and so I ran out with my drink, and I was starting to drop them off, and I was like, "This is going to take too much time." So I took my tip cup off, and I dumped all the drinks into the garbage. I mean, I don't care. I probably dumped like $75 worth of drinks, like just in the trash. I didn't give a shit, glassware and everything. I ran to the showroom. By the way, I had my Duran Duran sticker on my tray. Total fan. And so like Simon and all of them, they start walking out, and I'm like, "Hey, you remember me 2 days ago?" And he's like, "Oh yeah. And I'm like, "Oh my God, you're here at my job. Look at my tray." I couldn't contain myself. And so one by one, hello. I'm not supposed to be here, but I can't believe this is happening.
But
oh my God.
But tell the story about shaking hands with Simon.
Oh, well, that was at the Hard Rock. But and this is before social media. This is before smartphones. I had a BlackBerry that apparently only had so much memory in it. And wouldn't you know it, the moment I meet him, my phone, no storage, couldn't get a picture. But anyway, so I'm shaking his hand. And I'm talking to him, and he's playing along though, because he could have pulled his hand away. He didn't do it, but he's shaking my hand, and I'm gushing about, my dad said when I was 13, I wouldn't be listening to you guys 20 years from now. Here it is, 20 some years later. Oh my God, I love you guys. I'm like, he tore down all my posters when I got a bad progress report, and he's just like, you can stop shaking my hand at any time. And I'm like, oh,
my bad.
Sorry. But I think he was playing with me. He was very sweet. But and on the flippity, there's been some not so sweet celebrities, and
we don't need to talk about them.
I won't mention any names, and I will say there are always factors.
Yeah,
people are drinking, and alcohol affects
money.
People. Well, yes, but alcohol affects people differently. Yeah. And I've seen people at their best, and I've seen them at their worst. And if I was a terrible person, I could have documented behavior of a lot of famous people and probably, let it out there and let, things be known. But we didn't do that back in my day. Today, I would never exploit anybody. And of course, we didn't have the technology. But, I saw some shit. And out of respect and legal reasons, I won't say what. But, people lose their minds. And you know what the weird thing is they think the staff is like okay with that and that we do that stuff too. And I'm like, there are mothers and, you know, people who are in college to be school teachers. And well, yeah, I suppose, yeah, we do have some grandmas in the biz. But family people, and they just put on the uniform to do their job, and people treat cocktail servers or even, you know, the hot bartender, any chick in general, because, you know, they really have us all sexed up. But they treat you like you're a working girl, which there are working girls there. You just got to know how to find them.
Or let them find you.
Or let them find you. The carpet hoes are thick, and they are walking through those casinos all the time. And let me put it this way. If you're sitting by yourself and a random attractive young girl comes up to you and starts playing the machine next to you when there's dozens of other empty machines around, she's a working girl. Yeah. Well, let's just call her a working girl. Yeah. And let's talk about the working girls. There's different kinds of working girls, and we had to deal with them. Now, luckily, the girls were respectful, maybe because they knew that we had the upper hand, because I was actually working a job that I'm allowed to do. But I hold no ill will toward working girls. If somebody wants to sell their body and they're providing a service, and as long as everything's consensual and safe, whatever.
Let it go.
But there's different types of girls. There's like the high class ones that are really hard to tell because they're so polished.
Yeah.
The only way you can tell is because you see them again, not so frequently, but they're with somebody different, but it's kind of the same scenario. But then when you lock eyes, it's like you kind of know, but I'm like, whatever, girl, do what you got to do. And then there's the ones we call them carpet hoes. Those are the ones that kind of have pimps in the hotel, and not that they stay in the hotel, they just walk around. And they're the girls that, you know, walk around the casino and will, you know, sit down next to somebody and try to work them. And a lot of the lounges, we call them the carpet hoes because most casinos have carpet and they, you know, pound the carpet. And then you got the real streetwalkers, the ones that will march up and down Tropicana between the Strip and the Orleans at 3 a.m. Oof. Those are the bottom barrel girls. And you got all those hourly motels down there. So I don't begrudge a working girl. Just be safe. You know, that's all. But they used to scare off some of my play. So I'd be like, look, if you start running off my people, you got to go. So I'm like, and tell them to tip me. And usually they would.
As long as you're getting your money.
Well, you know, some of those girls would run off your players. Like I was getting tips to serve that guy drinks. He was legitimately gambling, and then she scares him away. Some of them don't want that company, and they're a little shocked when somebody does that. And you know, they're like, "Was that a hooker?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Well, why did they allow that here? I'm like, "Well, you know, I can't. Whatever. She's on her way. She's gone. Don't worry about her."
No. Keep drinking.
Yeah. I used to, one time I was in the bathroom and it was Christmas time and these girls were having a hard day. They weren't making any money. And, I'm in the bathroom just trying to like hide from the public. And these girls all crowd into the stall next to me and they were doing cocaine. You know, got to get through the night, I guess. But they were saying that they had to give their pimp something because they didn't have anything. They weren't working. And, you know, they left the stall and then I, you know, washed my hands, got out of there. As I was walking out, because I recognized their shoes, they were all standing by the ATM pulling money from their account so they could pay their pimp. So, you know, it ain't easy. And taco waitresses have those hard nights too, although I've never had to pull from my account. But I've seen waitresses that have gambling problems or mates that have gambling problems that, you know, spend money that while they're working. That's sad. But that's not my story.
No. But you have a tremendous amount of stories. It would be wonderful if you put these together.
Well, I have written some stories over the years. It's just really hard to be. I'm a better storyteller, but if anybody out there wants to help put it together, I have already locked down domain names from years ago. But I do have a mound of golden stories. And I would love to share them with people because a lot of people say, "Are you serious?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And that was my life. And I'll tell you what, if any of my former colleagues are listening right now, I would love to talk to them because they're still in the storm and they're probably rolling their eyes at me talking like, "Oh my God, that's so stupid," whatever, because it's still life for them. But when you get away from it, you really realize how I'm going to say the word special, that time is there. It's, dealing with the public. This is some education that you cannot get from any college or any book. When you deal with the public in mass, the way casino workers do, and in particular cocktail waitress, and you add alcohol to the mix, you have to be able to handle them and yourself, like not lose your cool. And you don't want to have any angry situations, so you have to know how to diffuse people. But it's their jobs are crazy, and they deserve their tips. Well, maybe not all. There's some sourpuss waitresses that will text in the bathroom with a full tray of fucking drinks while your drinks are dying on the tray, and then you finally take those drinks out
and then complain that you got stiffed.
Oh my God. Well, look, there's good waitresses, there's bad waitresses. Sometimes it's justified. If your people are terrible and nobody's tipping you, maybe you sit back in the bar for a little longer.
Because I remember texting you when I was at your old casino saying,
"Yep,
I'm at my machines and I haven't seen anybody in over a half an hour."
I think it was closer to 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And I remember texting a girl that was working there that night and said, "Who's working this slot station?" And she's like, "Oh, that's so-and-so." I go, "Tell that bitch to bring my husband a bottle of water."
Exactly.
The fuck? And you're like, "Yeah, she walked past me twice." And I'm like, "Does she know you're my husband and she's ignoring you?" It's pretty bad when I have to text a girl in Vegas from California to serve my husband a drink. Yeah. So there's definitely different stories for different waitresses. Some, you're legitimately doing your job, you're hustling, you're out there, you're dropping drinks. And, some people are volume. They will bring out full trays. And it's hit or miss. Whatever sticks, they'll take it, the tip. Me, personally, I didn't work like that. I didn't like to work that hard. I only carried out full trays and six packs if people were tipping. So, sometimes you would, walk a little out of your way to avoid a station or, avoid a bank of people who weren't tipping. Or, maybe you skipped them every other round because they weren't taking care of you. Or maybe they were drinking too fast or being demanding or you just didn't like the way they looked at you. Believe me, there was a lot of reasons that I would be fucking with somebody. I'm like, "Are you serious? You want something from me and I have the power. So if you're not nice and you don't tip, you ain't getting what you want." And people used to try to hustle us all the time. "Can you bring 2 Bud Lights?" I'm like, "Yeah, well, there's only one of you." "Well, it's for my wife." I'm like, "Well, when your wife gets here, I'll bring her a drink." "Well, just bring it." "No, I can only bring one person per drink per round and I don't see your wife playing." Never mind. "So you don't want the Bud Light at all?" We'll just bring in the Bud Light then. And you bring out the Bud Light, guy's fucking gone.
Yeah.
So, of course. People try to spam you.
Bud
Light! Somebody yelling at me? Bud Light! I'm sorry, sir. Are you yelling your order at me from 50 feet away? Oh, right. Yeah, okay. So, I was saying, well, anyways, people screaming their orders from not an appropriate distance. And it makes me wonder if they go into restaurants and yell at a server walking by the same way. Hamburger!
I do, but I'm...
And how does that work for you?
Not well.
Yeah.
Not too well.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, people, they would say something really fucked up to you. And I'm like, what's stopping me?
I'm going to give you a drink, right?
Yeah. At this point, I'm not going to share all my secrets because I don't want to,
save
people
for the
are
book.
thin today. Yeah, I'll save it for the book. But let me just put it to you this way. For the general public that's listening, please, I implore you, be nice and be patient when you're dealing with people who are handling your food and drink. Because if you don't, they're going to do something to your stuff. And I've seen it and I've done it. So nothing too gross for my end, but the people that I did it to had it coming. And I can remember 2 people, that I met. No, third one, she actually worked at the casino. She deserved it. But that's another thing too. There's a little girl-on-girl violence going on.
No, yeah.
I knew 2 girls that used to put shit in each other's drinks. Not chemicals or anything. Just one would scratch her pubic area with like a straw and then stir the other girl's drinks. Just stuff like that.
I like how you laugh at that.
You know what? Because I didn't like either girl, and I thought their fighting was petty and unnecessary, and I just let it happen. I wasn't going to tell on either one of them. I just let them be cut. I'm not getting involved. They'll start doing that stuff in my drink. So I had dirty ashtrays dumped in my purse. Somebody didn't like something I said or did, that dump a dirty ashtray in my bag. I had a bartender put honey in my jacket. That was a joke, but still, that was my jacket. I had to wear it. So I returned the favor. This is back when the machine spit out coins. So I emptied out about 20 honey packets into one of those coin cups. And when I tipped them out, I put all the quarters in it. So when he went to the cage to cash it in, they wouldn't cash it for him because he had to wash all those quarters first. There was like $40 in quarters in there. So he wanted it. So
you had to soak it overnight just to get the honey off of them.
Hot water. You had to rinse them through the dishwasher. And but he got me back because he sprayed whipped cream into a coffee filter and threw it on the ceiling. And I went up to give my order, and it landed on my head. So there was all kinds of pranks like that going on, all kinds of good stuff.
All the good stories.
With love. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, and some evil shit, too. But I'll save it for the book.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hey, I appreciate the time.
You're welcome.
What's the best way for my listeners to get a hold of you and follow you and see what you got going on?
Well, I don't really do any cocktail updates anymore, but I still keep my page that I had for 10 years over on Twitter. It is called Casino Waitress, although just like my tagline says, it's more random thoughts that I post now. But if you dig far enough back into my media, you will see some content from my cocktailing days. And who knows, maybe I'll finally finish that website that I have the domain for and direct people over there. I would certainly love to talk to more of my other workers and add some stories to it. It'd be fun.
As you know,
all right. Well, thanks for interviewing me. I hope I don't disappoint. It was an odd interview.
Thanks for listening to this is the first episode you've actually listened to.
I'm a part of it. All right. You're welcome.
All right.
All right. I'll see you in the living room.
Love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.